Tiffany and Daria just made it to their cabana to enjoy the early afternoon sun and start to unwind on their beach holiday. Daria could not believe all the men at the beach were checking her out instead of the beautiful redhead next to her. An athletically fit man who was 6 feet 6 inches was looking the lady, who was not used to being the center of attention, up and down, while those two on their getaway were getting ready to bask in the sun. The shy lady said to Tiffany, "I swear all those guys are checking me out instead of you, especially that hunk with the six-pack." Tiffany excitedly said, "They are, and I am telling you, hun, that stud is so checking you out." Daria turned as red as a victim of sunburn when she replied, "No way, dear, he is checking you out." Tiffany confidently said, Dar, hun, trust me. You are so his type and I am not. He is so checking you out." Sheepishly, Daria said, "Tiffany dear, you are so much better looking than me, so there is no way, with both of us standing here, that stud would be checking me out instead of you." Tiffany was determined to prove herself right and said, "How about this? You wave at him, to invite him over. If he comes over and starts to talk with you, I will leave you two alone. If he does not come over, I will buy our drinks for the rest of the day. Either way, you will be getting free pina coladas for the rest of the day." Daria knew she had nothing to lose and everything to gain, so she was willing to take up the challenge. It would be no big deal if that man did not want her. She was used to that. She will get to hang out with Tiffany and drink for free. As she smiled and waved to that man, she said, "I hope you brought your credit card, for I will be very thirsty after that hunk does not show." Nick's pupils dilated when he saw that hot brunette he was checking out waved at him. He was worried that that foxy lady who was in a pink two-piece bikini was with the auburn-haired lady in a brown one-piece. Nick expanded his chest to show off his chiseled body as he started to casually make his way over to her. That stud was trying to impress the filly who caught his eye. Daria, the unsuspecting huntress, was getting nervous with each step her prey made towards her. She now knew what Wile E. Coyote would have felt like if he ever caught the roadrunner. She loved to think what she would do with a man like him, but she was married to Tiffany. "Dear, I cannot lead him on. I love you and only want you." Tiffany was so happy to hear those words from her husband. Those words meant she had nothing to worry about if Daria hooked up with that man. She knew her husband always wanted to be with a man, and she wanted Daria to have that pleasure. A man offered something different in the bedroom than a woman, and with their love and connection so strong, it would be sex only for the sake of sex. Tiffany assured Daria it was fine. "My love, you always talked about how much you would enjoy being with a man, so be with him if you want to. I know I have nothing to worry about from him. He might be pleasing to the eyes and your body, but he cannot please your heart, soul or mind. I know I please all of them." Daria transitioned to living as a woman full-time 2 years ago, and Tiffany saw her as all woman. That did not change the fact that Tiffany thought she would always consider Daria the husband in the marriage. The reason Tiffany called her Daria hubby was that even after living as who she always was, Daria still fell into the traditional husband role of the marriage. The lovely wife would explain to those who did not understand her doing so that Daria mowed the lawn, shoveled the sidewalk, did minor auto repairs and killed the spiders. The last chore she listed was a joke. Their marriage was on the rocks the fateful evening that Daria, then Mike, had to tell her wife who she really was. Tiffany knew that Mike was hiding something from her and just assumed it was another woman. In a way she was right, but Tiffany would not have guessed her faithful spouse's other woman was actually her husband. Mike displayed all the signs of a cheating spouse. He cleared his web browsers after use and had a secret email account. When he went out without his wife, the details were either too vague or too precise. Tiffany did not know what hurt more, that her husband was cheating on her or that she believed he was a philanderer without definite truth. Then one day, the man who was hiding something from his wife messed up. He indulged in what he was keeping from the woman who owned his heart longer than he should have and was caught in the act. Tiffany walked into their bedroom and saw a matching black lace bra and panty set, silk stockings, and a bodycon midi dress with a pair of 5-inch stiletto shoes. She heard the shower in the adjoining bathroom going and screamed at the top of her voice, "Michael Fitzgerald and whoever is in there with him, get out here right now." Michael cursed himself, for he wondered how to explain he was alone and the clothes in the bedroom without letting down the woman he loved. The busted man quickly followed her orders, for there was no way he was going to disappoint his wife any more than he already had to today. He left the bathroom so fast that he did not take the time to turn off the shower. Standing in their bedroom soaking wet, Michael covered his privates for he did not want to feel any more exposed than he already did. It was not his nakedness being out in the open which he was worried about the most, but covered it up for that was the only part of his exposure he could hide. The man had to come clean to who he really was, and that scared him, for he heard so many stories from his friends about this moment of truth and none of them went well. The best case was that his wife would divorce him and never speak to him. The most common one was that his wife would divorce him, never speak to him again, and make sure everyone knew why. The worst case is that his wife would divorce him, never speak to him again, make sure everyone knew why, and she would never trust anyone again. He did not want any of those scenarios, so he tried to hide who he was to her. Tiffany demanded to know where the other woman was. Michael told her the truth and said he was home alone. Tiffany went into the bathroom saying, "Get out here, you, and face the woman whose man you have been sleeping with." As Tiffany was looking for no one, Mike got an idea how to at least show his wife that he was faithful to her. He quickly put on the panties and the heels and started to casually walk around the bedroom. Tiffany came out wondering how that woman pulled a Houdini, then she came out to see her husband walking casually back and forth in the bedroom. The only reason she did not notice the panties on him was she swore he must have grown about a half a foot. Mike's shoes were blocked from the view of the woman, who had no idea what was going on, by their bed. Then Mike walked past the bed and Tiffany saw the shoes. She could not do anything but laugh at the moment. The laughter was not directed at her husband, but that she was relieved that he was faithful to her. At that moment Mike felt so much shame about who he was. The man who wasn't a male felt he deserved the humiliation of his wife's laughter being aimed at him. To his credit, he was strong enough to keep on looking at his wife in her eyes. Tiffany saw the pain on her man's face and knew it was from him thinking her laughter was ridicule about how he was dressed. She made her best effort not to laugh when she told her husband, "Dear, I am laughing for I am relieved that there is no other woman, plus, you walk better in those heels than I. I am impressed." Even with his judgment being clouded by the pain of feeling rejected, Mike knew his wife well enough to know the truth and started to laugh also. He was relieved that it looked like he was going to get the best case scenario and only a divorce with his wife totally out of his life. Quickly, Mike stopped laughing for he wanted to make sure his wife knew how sincere he was about what he was going to tell her. "Tiffany, I am sorry that I did not tell you my secret, but I would much rather have hidden this behind your back than what is going to happen now, you leaving me." Tiffany said, "I have no issue with you cross-dressing. I do wish that you would have told me instead of trying to have a double life. I do understand why you did not. You just have to be open and honest about it right now." Mike knew here was the part that was going to change everything. He could lie and everything would be fine, but his wife deserved to know the truth. "Tiffany, I am not a cross-dresser. As Mike paused to gather his words, his wife was a little irked at him not admitting it. "Mike, come on. You are prancing around here in panties and heels better than I could. I told you, I am fine with you being one. You should feel no shame in admitting it." Mike said, "I wish I was a crossdresser, for you are handling this so well. Sadly, I am not. I have gender dysphoria. There is a mismatch between the sex of my body and my gender." Tiffany's relief that there was not another woman quickly went away. She had a new issue to deal with. Her husband was a female. It got silent for a moment, for too many questions were going through Tiffany's mind, and Mike did not want to do anything to make the situation worse for the woman he now shared everything with. Tiffany wanted to make sure that the conversation went the right way. Even with her being affected by the news, she knew this was about the person she wanted to grow old with. Tiffany started to be very analytical about her questions and grouped them as husband, marriage, and herself. First, she had to make sure her husband was fine, and then if their marriage would still be fine. Any issues which she would be worked out by the answers of the first two groups of questions. In a caring manner, she said, "Dear, get changed into whatever you feel the most comfortable in. What should I call you now?" Mike was confused and said, "Mike." Tiffany said, "Dear, if you want to be called Mike, then I will. I know that almost all people with gender dysphoria have a name which matches their true gender. If you like, I will call you by the name which you feel fits who you are." Mike knew he had to lay all his cards on the table and said, "Daria." "It is Daria." Tiffany, trying to make sure she is showing all of her support while not being condescending, said, "Daria, why don't you put on whatever makes you the most comfortable so we can talk? Do you need a tea or coffee? Anything? I want you to know you can be open and honest now. I just want what is best for you. I love you." Daria said her first words to her wife ever. "You are what is best for me. I love you." Tiffany was so happy to hear those words. She loved her husband and did not want to lose him, even if he would not be a him anymore. "I love you also, Daria, and you are what is best for me also. I am going to go make us some coffee. After you change, meet me on the couch." Timidly Daria said, "A little makeup?" Tiffany said, Dar, if makeup makes you happy and comfortable, then yes." Tiffany just gave her husband a new pet name. She did not mean to, and was praying that her husband did not think she was talking down to her. Dar smiled and said, "Then a little makeup, and I like it you called me Dar." Tiffany was down in the living room, a little anxious waiting to talk to Dar. Tiffany found it strange it was so natural for her to think of her husband as Daria. Also, how quickly she came up with a term of affection for the woman who was her husband. She also was a little shocked that the thought of divorce never crossed her mind, even when she thought that her husband might transition to living as a female full-time. She was hoping that her husband did not want to leave her. Tiffany knew she wanted to spend the rest of her life with that person she married, no matter their gender or sex. As the worried wife sat looking at the stairs, she finally saw the lady she was looking for. Her husband was in a simple outfit of black leggings and an olive green tunic with a padded bra. Tiffany was happy it was a B cup. The breasts the lady walking down the stairs wanted to show were not too big for her frame. As soon as Daria sat down, Tiffany could not take it anymore. She wanted to make this about her husband, but could not. She needed to know if they were going to stay together. Tiffany said, "I love you, Daria, and I want to stay married to you no matter what. Like I said before, you are the best for me. I want you to stay my husband. Daria hugged Tiffany. I want nothing more than to stay with you. That is why I was not forthright about my gender issues. How could I think you would want me as the woman I should be? The caring wife said, I love you for who you are, not if you are a man or a woman. How could you think that I would leave you just because of who you are? I love you for who you are and do not care about your physical package. The tentative husband held back both tears of joy and sorrow. The joy came from his wife wanting to stay together, even after Daria became the woman she always was. Daria knew that her wife lived in her heart. The sorrow was from not trusting her wife. It is just from the stories I heard from all the other girls I know about what happened to their marriage. Their ex-wives all left them, for they married a man and did not want to be married to a woman. I should have been truthful to you when I figured out who I was, and that is another reason. I deceived you and only came forward with the truth when I was backed into a corner. I know you are right if you want to leave me. Tiffany did not feel betrayed by Daria holding back on saying who she really was. It was for the wife understood her husband had to be ready to tell her. When they first were put on that blind date, it was none of her business and he was fighting his gender issue. Then when they fell in love, he held back from telling her and exploring it for the sake of protecting the three things he held closest to his heart, her, their relationship and himself. Tiffany said, Dar my dear, you kept something from me and I understand why. It was never the right time or place for you to share it. You tried to deny it from me and our relationship. I do not want to leave you. I love you and we made a vow to be at each other's side for better or for worse. I stood by you in the worst times, you discovering yourself while not being able to get my help. There is no way I am going to miss the better times when you are happy with who you are. Those words reaffirmed to Daria her wife's undying love for her. Daria said, Dear, you just being there for me was what helped me to find the courage and strength to find out who I am. I had to be honest with how I was for you. I love you. Those two had a long conversation from the heart on how they were going to handle Daria revealing who she was to the world. They also covered how this transition was going to affect their plans on having children. A couple of decisions were made. The first one they came to agreement on was to wait until Daria was settled into being who she was full-time. The second decision was to have Daria freeze some of her sperm so she would have a biological connection to their children. Before Nick made his way over to the two ladies, Daria still could not believe she was in his sights and she should have. This was the last childless vacation those two were having and they were both out to impress other people. They both knew it was time to settle down and wanted one last vacation where it was about late nights and just relaxing at the beach. Tiffany also wanted something special for her husband, so she insisted they go to Club Illusion. It catered to the entire trans community and their admirers. She knew that her Dar for once wanted to be the center of attention when those two were out. Nick walked a little slowly on his way over, to give him time to size up his next conquest. The lust in her eyes showed him that the straightforward approach would work fine. When he finally made his way over to the husband and wife, he walked past Tiffany like she was wearing the one ring. The muscle-bound man stretched to show off the results of all those hours spent in the gym as he said, Hi there, my name is Nick. Mind if I join you? Daria has played out a sequence of events close to this many times in her head. It was a harmless fantasy and her wife encouraged it. Even with doing so, she never imagined that the man would just ignore Tiffany. In her mind, the scenario played out that the guy struck out with Tiffany first and then moved on to the consolation prize, Daria. She said, Hi Nick, my name is Daria and I do not care if you join us. You need to also ask Tiffany. She is my Tiffany was not going to let her dar ruin her first chance to be with a man, so she butted in before the smooth operator said, her wife. Her best friend. Dar here is single. Daria gave the lady who was playing her wing woman the look of what are you doing? The spur-of-the-moment matchmaker gave a look back of trust me. The inexperienced lady on the prowl did, for she knew that Tiffany would never do anything to harm her. Nick said, of course, I was asking both of you. Nick was telling the truth that he was asking both of them, but only really cared about the answer from the lady his lustful heart desired. Tiffany said, of course you can join us. If you don't mind, first we are going to go to the bar first to get us our drinks to enjoy, while Daria here enjoys the scenery, and I try to find someone pleasing to look at. Nick figured out that those two wanted a minute to talk about him and his desire to be a gentleman, so he said, you two stay here. I will go get all three of us a drink. Tiffany threw the hitter a hanging curveball when she suggested that Daria helped him carry the drinks over. He did not care that this was becoming easy. He was not one about the pursuit. Nick wanted to be with Daria. One bad thing is they both were on vacation, so it would only be in one-night stand. Even with sexual pleasure as his primary goal, he also would have liked to see if they had a connection. The yearning man would love for love to blossom, for he was looking for someone to love. On the way to get the drinks, Daria had to be honest about her past. Nick, I have not always been Daria. I used to be Mike. Nick said, Dar, do you mind if I call you Dar? I knew you used to be a man. You are not wearing one of the special bathing suits genetic girls have to when they are here, like your friend. I have always been attracted to ladies like you for how you welcome your femininity. I find you so strong for doing so. Daria said, of course you can call me Dar, just please do not call me Dar. Only Tiffany can call me Dar. I should have known that was why you looked at me over Tiff. Nick could not believe that he put his foot in his mouth trying to give a compliment. It is true that he was attracted to trans girls, but it was not a fetish. He just was attracted to the essence of femininity. It did not matter of the birth sex of the person. He felt it was the perfect complement to his masculinity. Nick was the classic style of masculinity of strong and quiet, and he never came off as macho. For example, Nick was confident, not cocky. Nick said, Dar, that came out wrong. If I saw you two walking down the street, I would have noticed you first, solely based on your looks and how you carry yourself. You have an elegance which I like. I do want to get to know you. Hearing those words lifted Daria's spirits and made her feel she was special in Nick's eyes. On their way back to the cabana, they both were laughing and had that special glare on their face of two people making a connection. Seeing those two flirting did make Tiffany a little jealous and concerned. She told herself that her insecurity was what contributed to her having those feelings, and she really had nothing to worry about. It had to be, for there is no way that man could ever come close to pleasing the love of her life's heart, soul and mind. Even with self-doubt kicking in, Tiffany was going to stay with her plan to leave those two alone. Her husband deserved to have the chance to be with a man, to see if that was right for her. It was what would be best for her husband, herself, and their relationship. She never wanted Daria to have any regrets about what she did not do as a woman. Regrets led to resentment, and the last thing Tiffany wanted was to be in a marriage in which love was poisoned by negative emotions. When those two came back, Tiffany took her mojito that Daria handed her. Daria said she was going to put some suntan lotion on, and before Tiffany could offer to help, Nick took the bottle and said, I will do that for you, as long as you oil me up also. Tiffany felt the jealousy come back a little stronger. She wanted to be the only one who touched her dar in that way. She saw how much the lady who was getting the suntan lotion rubbed in her body was enjoying it. Her husband had a look on her face like a purring kitten. The lady, who might have opened up a jar of hornets with having Daria invite that man over, knew how good the nice, strong, firm touch of a man could be. Tiffany fought the urge to bring the flirting to an end. She knew she could have easily calling her dar her wife by accident. With being envious of Daria, she saw her as her wife. In doing so, she figured out what she was jealous of was that she missed having the sensation of a man's touch on her body. That eased the envy, for no man could ever touch Tiffany's heart, soul, and mind like Daria did. Just when Tiffany found her balance, she got jealous for the third time when she saw how much those two were enjoying Daria putting the lotion on Nick. She knew it was from both, Nick receiving a nice rub from Daria and giving a nice rub to a man's body. Oh, how much she loved the light touch of Daria on her body, and she did enjoy rubbing the nice firm muscular body of a man. This time she fought off those negative feelings by making it her goal to rock Daria's world this afternoon, when she returned from her meaningless hookup with that man. After the worried woman was done torturing herself watching the woman she loved be frisky with a man, Tiffany excused herself. Daria causally said goodbye to her, and that added pain to Tiff's heart. She wanted that special goodbye lovers gave each other. In trying to have her wife experience everything a woman can, she might have lost her for good. The woman who wanted what was best for her dar knew it was too late to go back on giving her wife this one-time hall pass. It would just lead to Daria's curiosity about being with a man to grow. She knew she could not compete with a fantasy, so she had to let this run its course. No matter what, she wanted to be an adult about this and remain Daria's best friend. Tiffany spent the next 2 hours marinating in self-hate, fear, anger, and jealousy. She could not believe how stupid she was to think she would be fine with anyone else giving or receiving pleasure with Daria. She thought that Daria was going to come in and announce that the marriage was over, for only a man could truly satisfy her in bed. She was kicking herself for doing what she thought was right for the relationship, instead of what was right for her and Daria. Lastly, her mind kept on coming back to how much she wanted to be with Daria right now, giving each other bliss in this bed she was sulking in instead. The door opened up and Daria came in glowing. All of Tiffany's fears and concerns were confirmed. Her wife loved having sex with men. Dar never shone like that after sex with Tiff. Tiffany's marriage was over. She was happy at least that they did not have any children yet. That would have made the divorce harder, for it would have affected innocent people. Sounding sad and rejected, Tiffany said, "Don't tell me any of the details about what happened between you two." Hearing the woman who helped Dar become the woman she was today made the light she was radiating off of her quickly become extinguished. Something was wrong with Tiff and she needed to make it right. She ran over and said, "Tiffany, I could not share details with you even if I wanted to, for Nick and I did nothing but talk after you left. I love you too much to have another person give me pleasure in that manner, or me give another person pleasure in that manner. I am floating, for I know you are the only one for me. Nick is a great man and has an even better body, but he does not come close to doing it for me like you do. I enjoyed his strong hands on my body, but could only think that your hands would have done a better job giving me pleasure. Touching that firm body was great, but not close to how amazing it is to touch your soft, silky skin, plus it just felt strange that the person who was that intimate by giving me a sexual rub was not you. You should be the only person that is ever intimate with me in any sensual or sexual way. I know I will wonder what it would be like to be with a man, but I have no urge or desire to. My body, eyes, heart, mind and soul belong to you, as yours belong to me. Now let your husband kiss and do more to make up with you." Tiffany's heart swelled with joy, confidence, and love. She knew their true love saved her from the biggest mistake she ever made in her life, pushing sex on her wife. Dar, I will let my wife do so. Today, even with all those bad feelings I had, it was worth it, for I see you now for what you are, my wife. You might fill the masculine role in our relationship, but you are all woman. Those two started to kiss and make the journey to giving and receiving bliss from each other in that hotel room bed.